Today, Chuck and I have a very special guest with us on the Instructional Design from the Ground Up show, Catherine Zarinas. She's got an interesting journey, and she's here to share many insights with us. So stay with us. We're coming right up. You have instructional design questions. We discuss answers. Catherine Zarinas is an award-winning serial entrepreneur, educator, and public servant. She has launched several startups, including Rescue Corps, Zarinas Lawns, Crepes by the Sea, and Performance Link LLC. Perform Link has been helping organizations with leadership development, change management, instructional systems design, and advisory services, and helping them overcome a range of learning and organizational effectiveness challenges. Catherine has led the redesign of instructional content for over 350 plus courses for public and private sector clients, government, non-for-profits, and higher education. She has taught classes for elementary, high school, community college, 4-year, and graduate school. She began her public service career as a Peace Corps volunteer in Romania and currently serves on the boards of several organizations in the DC metro area. Catherine served as president of the International Society for Performance Improvement, ISPI, Potomac chapter, where she was privileged to receive a Chapter of Excellence award. The chapter has won 9 consecutive Chapter of Excellence awards since Catherine's tour as president from 2010 to 2011. She is passionate about developing happy and healthy leaders that achieve award-winning results. Welcome, Catherine. We are so happy to have you here with us today.
Oh, it's
I
a
can't
pleasure to
tell
be
you.
here with you.
This is such a treat for me because we go back so many years. I don't know how many years, but it doesn't matter because I can still remember you sitting in 602 and the look in your eye, which was not one of, gee, I'm really into this at the moment. And I think you are the perfect story for success in instructional design
Aw,
because you had such an incredible life and history before you came to the graduate program. And since the graduate program, you've gone on to do incredible things and are now a member of the faculty. And that accomplishment and that route to success, ISD, may have played a small part, but it's really about you and how you look at life and how you look at success. And I want to share with everybody that's watching the thread that instructional design provided you as you started and as you are now faculty and all the other tremendous things you've done. So tell us about this path, this incredible path, Catherine.
oh, sure. So, I guess it started when right out of college, I joined the United States Peace Corps and I was an education volunteer serving in Eastern Europe in Romania. And I was brought in, or I was able to secure a spot right out of college because I had developed a curriculum to speak Greek language classes at my local church as a senior. And because I had already started developing curriculums without any instruction, I just didn't even know that I needed it, right? So I secured a position with the Peace Corps. I was the second youngest person in my group, and we were learning evidence based learning approaches. I didn't even know that's what it was called at the time until I went through the program. But we were learning various approaches to teaching Romanian students English language lessons. And it was the same way that I learned Romanian, learning an approach, which actually still use today. It's the format method. I challenge my clients and my students to find something that's more effective and efficient than the approach that I've been using for 26 years. So I test it every year. And so but I didn't know. I didn't know that the bar was set pretty high for me at a pretty young age. And so, I started off, I didn't know that it could lead to a career in instructional systems development, but it was definitely a solid building block. And so after Peace Corps, I thought I would come back to the States and I would take a teaching position, but my mentor in the Peace Corps discouraged me. She said she knew I had wanted to have a business, and she knew that I had passion around teaching, and she wanted me to find a way to combine the two because I had an undergraduate degree in economics. And so she told me to go and get the most aggressive business position I could find, first to pay off my student loan debt, what I call the mortgage on my brain, and then to to develop business acumen so that when I started a business, I would have a strategic seat at the table, and that I would later learn the science of learning, but that I should learn the business piece first. So I worked in financial services, working with multinational corporations, building their hedging strategies for foreign exchange exposure. When I paid off my last student loan, I trained for a spot on the Greek national softball team to represent Greece in the 2004 Olympics. And again, I started to put together a curriculum. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but I was putting together my own curriculum. And some things I did well, and some things I learned I could have done a little differently. But as that pursuit was winding down, I kept finding myself on the UMBC campus. I first found myself there with Peace Corps for a Sergeant Shriver event. And
Hmm.
then when I was coaching, while I was training for the Olympics, I also coached. We would play UMBC at the beginning of the season because the school that I was coaching at was a Division II school, and UMBC was a Division I school in softball. And so we played UMBC to set the bar really high for our girls so that they would know what to work for the rest of the season. And after UMBC would beat us in a slaughter rule, right? We knew what we needed to work on. So when I was looking to get a master's degree, I kept thinking to myself, I keep finding myself on the UMBC campus for a variety of reasons. And I love the tagline at the time. It was excellent by example, because that's exactly
Yep.
what I saw. And I
Yep.
said, I'm seeing this in service. I'm seeing this on the athletic field. And so by assumption, I thought this must be happening also in the classroom. So when I saw this advertisement come through for the program, I was like, this is a field. I didn't even know that what I'd been doing was linked to something. And I called Dr. Williams, and I let him know that I had looked at, and this is true, I had looked at 54 MBA programs before I had spoken to Greg. I
Just
was
54?
just
You're usually
54.
more thorough than that,
That's
Catherine.
right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And Greg sort of said to me, "Oh, what's keeping you from doing this?" And I said to him, "I go to the open houses, and I'm instead of listening to what the faculty is saying, I'm thinking about how they could be doing it differently, right?" And he said, "Oh,
Of
okay."
course you were.
so,
I can
so
identify with that feeling.
How many open houses? That's the question.
there were a few. There were a few. There were definitely a few. And I guess the thing that really sealed the deal, I had been looking at the University of Maryland Smith School, and I asked them if they had a joint. When I learned that there was this field, a joint MBA MA program, they said no, the schools are not connected. You'd have to apply to one and then apply to the other one. I'm like, are you telling me to go apply to UMBC? He said, yeah. I said, okay. So I went and applied. And Greg was really brilliant. He said, what if you just took one class? Take Dr. Hodell's class. And if it works out, right, and you like it, take another one. And if you like that too, you can take two more and you'll get a credential, you'll get a certificate in instructional systems design. And then if that works out for you and you still like this, you can just keep going from there. And I said, just one class? I just have to commit to one class? And he said, yeah, just one class. And I said, well, what do I need to do? So he made it real easy for me to connect the dots. And a week later, I was in Chuck's class. So, and
And I was not ready.
and you were not ready. That's right.
Is
He
that
was
a
not
different
ready.
story? Like, you
Well,
just weren't ready?
you have to remember I was coming off of an Olympic training experience. So I was definitely really intense, even more intense, I
Uh,
think, than I am now at that time. So Chuck is right. He
I
was.
I don't think intense would cover it, Catherine. And it
Yeah,
was a
well,
windowless classroom too, so everybody was
aw.
I was like 216. We're, above Starbucks and on campus, so everybody wanted to go get a coffee. They wouldn't listen to me. Couldn't look out the window, so they're all staring. Yeah, that was a different. I didn't like that classroom, but that was your classroom for
Okay,
602.
was it? Hey,
Yeah,
so yeah, it worked out really well, and so
really well.
yeah, it was actually in Chuck's class that I said, "This is what I want to do." I didn't know I could do this, and you may recall it was during that class that I just quit my job in financial
Yes.
services. And Chuck took me outside and said, "Are you okay? This is not something I'm going to recommend to people. You don't just quit your job without a plan." But it did work out.
It
It did
did,
work.
but
Yeah, it
we did
worked out.
talk a lot.
We did talk a lot. It was a bumpy transition. I eventually got
Yep,
several offers, instructional
yep,
systems design offers.
yep.
And I ended up working full time while going to the UMBC graduate, ISD program part time over a 5 year period. And I actually do recommend that. At first, I wouldn't have thought that it would have worked out so well, but it allowed me to test everything that I was learning in the classroom. So I was taking everything from a research to practice approach, and then from a practice back to a research approach. So by year 3, it was creating a multiplier. So it was really it worked out very brilliantly to just, take it in as and I could take a very deep dive into the material that way. And coming out, I had this rich continuum with my employer. And then I had the projects that were really of interest to me. So my portfolio was really rich at the end of a 5 year period. So yeah, it worked out. Adults like to move at their own pace, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. I mean, I have students that take my class now that when they tell me they want to take multiple classes and they just want to get through it, I said, "Get through what? Like, what are you trying to get through?"
Mhm.
You know, so,
Yeah, I have
so,
110 students every term, and I have to say that same thing too. You know, but it worked for you, and I think that's the point, right?
Mhm,
And Dr. Williams was exactly correct in his approach. We've always said, take the first course. If you don't like it, we're not going to waste your time or your money. Um,
mhm.
it wasn't like sign up and be here for 4 years or something. So, yeah, I think that approach works with adults because they really need to feel like they've invested in something that's worthwhile. But the sword of Damocles is not over their heads either. And with you, you were such a shining example of taking your life into its own space and making what you wanted of it and reaching for your dreams and not being afraid to make that move and that change. And I'm sure the look I had on my face when you told me you were quitting was probably, one of those Chuck looks that people don't get too often. But it told me something special about you. And I have to say, every time that we see each other in person, we just kind of smile,
Mhm.
because there's such a rich history there of watching you go from the very beginning and Peace Corps and everything else, all the way through to now you've got this company and you're doing these great things and you're teaching others to do the wonderful things that you do. And it's empowering for people to see this and to hear this.
It
I,
really
it,
is. Mm.
it was exciting for me. I didn't know it would be a vehicle to allow me to live my dreams, right? So to have the courage to pursue it too. And the program allowed me that structure, right? It allowed me to have the structure to, yeah, I know it. It was a great incubator. And it's truly a gift. So when I talked about the 54 universities that I researched, I landed at UMBC, and I like to tell the story to folks. I was looking for a place where I would learn the entrepreneurship and the academic. And then because I had was a Peace Corps volunteer, a place of service. And I think that that is what is so, so special about our program. So it's not that you just get the instructional systems design,
Right.
but you also get building blocks for teaching you entrepreneurship, and then it fostering a community that also gives back. So while it was no surprise that while I was in the program, a colleague, a professional work colleague, had nominated me to be president of a local professional association that I had never been to. And 3 days later, I was nominated to be president of it. Right. So it was really, and I think it's because I was living the attributes of Dr. Cook, who started our program, who really infused those elements. And so I think you get a really rich interdisciplinary experience, and nothing that you could plan for when you go through our program.
Well, Dr. Cook was very clear with me, and I don't know why he took me under his wing because of all the people he could have chosen. I was, 7,000th down that list. But when I first started writing and then first started teaching, he was very clear with me. He says, I want you to make sure that every student is better off when you're done with them, that you find something that they can accomplish and that they can do well, and give them a success every time you're with them. And he also told me not to be an academic, which I thought was startling at the moment for a man from two PhDs. But he said, when you start writing, don't write it from an academic perspective, write it from a practitioner's perspective, and build in and meld in the theory as you need to. But the learners in this program are going to work tomorrow. They're not full-time learners, and they need to be able to do the things that you teach them today, tomorrow morning. And I think that foreshadows everything that happens within this program, and I think a lot of other programs too. I don't think we're unique in that. We just had the guy. I mean, Dr. Cook was the guy, so we were lucky in that. But we've got a couple questions we want to ask you. The three question component of 3.5 questions, and we'll get to the half questions, which we'll have some fun with. But
All
Denise is
right,
going to
let's
start
do
us
it.
off.
Yes. So, Catherine, first of all, you were one of the reasons why I chose to enroll in the graduate program at UMBC, the Instructional Systems Design, the ISD program, LAPT, as it's called now. And we had a really great conversation, a thoughtful conversation. You took the time to educate me and to also inspire me without probably knowing that you did through just everything you just said to our listeners, you said to me, and it hit something in my heart. And so I went into Chuck's class. It was my first one as well, and it was the first one, the only one I took at that semester to see if I liked it, and I fell in love with it. I really did. And of course, Chuck, he's an amazing instructor, so that helped a lot. And it was just that nurturing, that encouragement, and just the potential and the possibilities of a career in ISD. And so I want to thank you for that. That's the first thing I want to
Aw,
say before we
my
start.
pleasure. It's my pleasure.
So let's get to the first question that we have for you. And
All
that
right.
is, what is your favorite ISD project and why is it your favorite?
You know, there are a few projects that are my favorite, but the one that sticks with me the most is a project that I worked on in 2017, working for the United States State Department. So I was invited to help redesign Secretary of State Colin Powell's leadership development program that was stood up in 2000. And there was a search. They had searched for, let's just say, many, many, many ISDs. And I was the first they were willing to interview for the position. And it was a team interview. There were 6 people in the room with me. And they then I thought they were going to lock the doors and not let me out because they were really happy that they found me. And I realized at the time that it was really going to require, it was a real tall order that they were looking to fill, and that I knew that I wasn't a superhero that was going to be able to solve all of their needs. So I suggested to them that they build a team and expressed what I thought they needed. And then once they found the second person that I had said they should look for, they should call me back, which they did. And we were both still interested. And what made this project so dynamic and sort of stood out from the others, we were working on a continuum of leadership development, which was where experiential leadership development experiences were threaded with other interventions like coaching and mentoring. And so it was really a robust program to develop leaders. But the course, I worked on all 4 of the courses. So from aspiring leader to executive. The executive course was by far the one that I enjoyed the most. So developing diplomats, really. how to be at the top of their game. And so what I loved about the experience was that I worked with a diverse team of foreign service officers and civil service officers. I worked with organizational development specialists, instructional designers, graphics designers, instructional technologists. So it was a really rich team that came together to put together or redesign a 3-week program for leaders that covered topics that were truly transformational, like how to create a respectful and supportive work environment, how to create compassionate accountability, how to they were just areas that really changed me as a person as I was working on these. There were things that changed the way that I lead teams now and how I serve as an executive. Each time we wrote a module, I thought, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I love this. And so and so as the day after we submitted developing this program, I started to make a to-do list of all the things that I wanted to do as a result of developing that program and the outcomes. So I transformed as a leader as a result of writing a course that was for other leaders. I started to implement a whole person leadership model for my team, which is thinking about the whole person that comes in. And during COVID, it has served me so well because folks are struggling with a lot of things on a personal level. And so if you meet people where they're at holistically, then you're going to support them in being able to do the work that they need to do. So it was a gift that I had learned how to do that in 2017 prior to COVID. We talked about spending time with people that you don't normally spend time with to get new ideas. And so I had joined many meetup groups the day after, which were walking groups. And so I still had people to walk with during COVID because these were all resilience strategies that we were telling other leaders to do. So it was as though everything that I had started to do after developing that course in 2017 helped prepare me for leading in challenging times. So it was an incredible feeling while we were working, and then the impact that it had on me as an individual, as a leader, were just exceptional. So that is why that particular course. So the program in its entirety has probably been my best project to date, but also that specific program. I have facilitators that are teaching that program that call me now and said, why did you do this? Tell me more about this. Why did you include this piece in there? And I thought, oh, thank you for reminding me. Thank you for reminding me so that I can continue to do those things, because they were awesome and we were so excited to build them in. So
Well, see, I think that is one of the most important parts of instructional design. And I have tried to share the feeling that you just expressed before with people,
mhm.
that you go through something, you learn more than you ever give. I always say that from teaching. I could never give as much as I've learned from my students. And I say the same from all the projects, the instructional design projects. No matter what part of the world or what language, I always came out a different person at the end of these projects because I was humbled, usually, um, even more so than usual. I'm an introvert, so I'm pretty quiet and humble anyway. But
Mm.
it's the notion that there's so much that you don't know until you get out there and investigate. So it's the unknown unknowns. And as we always say, you have to search. You have to be willing to give of yourself and expose yourself emotionally and professionally to grow. And what you've just said is exactly that process. And instructional design is about that. It's about learning and growing and being a better person and being a better designer and really helping so many people with what you do. It's not write objectives and, you know, do a lesson plan. It's about, okay, there's more to this than just this product. It really is about the process. And you perfectly illustrated that.
And what I also got out of that was that you have so much passion for what you do, and that service orientation that you have, that commitment to service. is something that is beautiful. And it's also just a really good reminder to people, anybody, no matter what your industry, that you have to put your heart into it. Because if your heart's not into it, you would never be able to say what you just said, that you loved everything. You're able to go out there and just share that knowledge with people and to share that excitement and that enthusiasm for what you did. And that right there is a testament to living your life through passion and really going on a journey, a career journey that you're proud of and that you're able to help the world. I mean, in so many different ways. So kudos.
I feel fortunate that I have the opportunity to do this, that I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity to do work that I find meaningful and purposeful and am passionate about. And even though they did hire me because I like to write learning objectives and could and was willing to align learning objectives to three different competencies, right? And figure out the Venn diagram and then create a curriculum around it that was not that would inspire people, not just so you know being able to go to that level of detail, right? And then come out of it and then realize you're serving humans, right? And then trying to make it practical for folks, but then making sure that the science is there so that, and I realized we got it right because I said, oh my gosh, if I'm feeling this way, this means that the people going through this are going to feel this way too. So and it's not in the absence, like, the science that we use makes is the soil for that to grow. It doesn't happen just because you're excited about something. There is both, there's the art piece, but there's also the science of it that makes that magic happen. And it's like a professional athlete or a musician. You have to practice that over time for it to sort of happen like it's effortless, when beneath it has been years and years and years of practice doing it. So, yeah.
Catherine, let's move on to the second question. What things did you learn the hard way?
Well, I think I started off by sharing, don't quit your job without a plan, no matter how bad it is and how excited you are about the next one, right? If you want a smoother transition, right? That's like rule number one. But it taught me, especially as a business owner, there are a few things that I learned. I've now been in business for myself for 8 years. And in the beginning, I was just optimizing the best of what I'd learned from others until I finally said, well, you started this for a reason. Like, listen to yourself, listen to the things that you get excited about. So having the courage to silence things and be confident that your ideas are good, right? So that was like the first thing, that once I had the courage to go out and try the things that I thought were right, that's when customers really started to notice that I was doing something different, because I wasn't just doing what I'd always done. So that was really powerful to know that after years of practicing the science, you're going to arrive at a different place, and to test it, to feel comfortable testing it. So that was really great. Also, I learned not to say yes to everything, because not every opportunity was a good one for a variety. And I'll break it down. My late business partner always said to me, is somebody handing you an opportunity or a bag of rocks? And I said, what are you talking
Yep.
about? Right. So, and I realized in 2016, I started to actually really arrive at a vetting process to figure out if both the project was a good fit and if the client culture was a good fit. And prior to that, I just assumed that everything was going to work out, which it did, but it was really bumpy because I hadn't really thought about uh, whether a project was scoped for success, whether a customer really understood what our science and discipline is all about, and if they were ready to invest the time to create quality instruction. So I took the time to really make sure. And actually, the more I did that, and the more I was really selective, the more better opportunities that aligned with the kinds of customers that could benefit from the science started coming. So, because I wasn't saying yes to not good opportunities. So my team arrived at maybe, I guess it's 10 criteria that we use now to just assess opportunities to determine if they're going to be a good project for our strengths, if our approach will work with the situation, and if the client culture matches with the way that we like to work. And so I can tell you now that sounds really great, but when those things are not aligned, those are really the
Mm.
hard way of doing things. And it leads to sleepless nights. You may end up, you could work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and nobody's going to appreciate those efforts if those things are not aligned. So you're working really, really hard to try to get that fit because it's not working, right? So I've not had any, I don't do that anymore. So I really like, thinking through, if you understand the customer's need, if you can, if it's a match with the strengths and talents and the approach that you are offering, right? And then taking a moment to understand how the leadership operates, and if the process that you're bringing can work in the environment and the culture, will it be received well? Because every learning intervention represents a change. So every learning experience you're managing, there's change management built into it. So you have to see if people are ready to embrace that change and that new process. And if they're not, it's, sometimes I tell people it's not that isn't a match, but it's not the right time. So let's like hit the pause button and, come back to me, and we'll see if, and usually when I do that, and I've done that since 2006, at least 4 times, and each time they've come back to me and the timing has been better.
Wow, I love what you said. That's something that I think a lot of us struggle with is knowing what to say yes to and knowing what to say no to. Because when you say yes to something, what are you saying no to? Right?
Mhm.
And it's really important to be able to prioritize and understand by saying yes what that actually means. And that's something I am challenged by constantly. I say yes to too many things and things that aren't always under the purview of what I am really designing in my life. And so I'm learning that, and listening to you, it reinforces the fact that I need to continue learning that. And I think that what you just said is really going to help our listeners to be able to understand the importance of priorities and the importance of getting that skill set to be able to say yes or no and understanding why you're saying yes or no. Very powerful.
Well, yeah, and your portfolio is a good indicator, because if you took the time to add a piece to it, it really does speak to what you really value. So if you're able to show items from your portfolio, that's the first piece that, okay, at least project fit is there. Project fit is there. I'm not sure that culture fit is, but and scoping is there. But in terms of project fit, it's probably there.
So, what's your advice to a new designer? Brand new designer is, let's say you're teaching 602 and Catherine walks in. What is your advice?
um, I'd say take the time to learn the approaches that are covered in our program, and find the ones that are really meaningful to you, that really speak to you. A lot of what we do as instructional systems designers, we are process consultants. So if there are approaches, there's an approach there that is meaningful to you. It's an evidence-based approach, and appreciate why you appreciate the evidence behind it, so that when a customer asks you, you can sort of, a lot of times I'll say, okay, this is what the science says, and this is why I appreciate it, and this is the benefit that comes from it. So therefore, you're able to share that with them. So it's not it's being able to talk about what we do as a benefit, and by bringing something that's been practiced. So you're not practicing it on your customers. It's evidence based. So figuring out which of these approaches, number one, really speaks to you. The next thing that I tell people is, what we do is really complex, and so not you're not going to be great at all of it. So figure out what you are really good at, and then team up with other people that have another fit. And, and also by knowing what you're really great at, you'll also know if there's going to be overlap if you're coming in from the outside with somebody else that's already doing something and they thought you'd be doing something else. So having a lot of clarity. And I remember in Chuck's class, my partners, the partners that I had on our first project said to me, you're going to get hired to do analysis and design. And I said, I want to do the whole thing. And they're like, no, 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 no. You are so good at this. People are just going to want you to do this all the time for them, Catherine. And I said, no, no, I want to do the whole thing. And now I realize
Of course.
customers will ask me, they really bring me in when they're stuck, they don't know where to start from. And then
Yep.
once I get through a design, sometimes I work myself out of a job because they didn't have a direction. And by being able to break down the analysis and the design, they're then able to develop, or somebody else is able to come
Yep.
in and do it. And then
Yep.
they'll say, but we have this other thing, come here, let me, so so it's just like really getting clear. And then when I bring other designers on my team, they'll say, no, no, I get energy from seeing it from start to finish. So if you're going to put me into a process where I only have to do one piece, this isn't the project for me. I get energy from seeing the idea come from concept, from it being turnkey from beginning to end. So it's
Yep.
really just knowing where you get energy, which approaches you like, which will then help you able to select the right projects to work on. And then we did talk about service a lot. I would say find a professional association that feels like a professional home to you. There are
Good.
so many, at least for those that live in the DC area, there are almost a million associations, if not a million. Find one that feels like a professional home to you, and don't be a bystander. If it's your professional home, take an active role, give back to it. And just like teaching, and you do that double loop, you'll get so much more that comes back to you than you could ever imagine. So if you're in an environment with people that feel like family to you, then you'll be able to, go off and give in a way that you probably wouldn't. And then what you get back from that is a multiplier.
That is perfect. Absolutely perfect. And because that was the perfect answer, you have earned the opportunity to do half a questions.
All
So
right.
at this point, Denise brings in, we've spent, I can't even tell you how much money on this
Oh, so much.
because we want production values unsurpassed on YouTube. So we're going to
Absolutely.
spin this and you can answer, you can not answer, you can get mad, you can ask for another. Anything it's your world. It's your pearl.
Okay.
Woo!
Mhm.
Woo!
What does
Woo!
it say?
Comedy or drama? Whoops.
I'll take comedy.
You'll take comedies.
Well, that was easy. Okay, here's the
So,
second one.
so you prefer comedy? Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite comedy? Do you have a favorite show? Maybe a TV show or a movie that you could recommend? Putting
Oh
you on the
boy.
hot seat here. Hot
No,
seat.
this is good. So I discovered the world of Netflix during COVID,
Oh,
and
God love you.
Haven't we all?
we started with a series. It's a Canadian series called Schitt's Creek.
Oh, I have heard about that. Yes.
And there are times my husband, who's a pretty reserved person, it was like full on teeth in the living room for many, many nights. So the characters, if you can get through the first two episodes, there's real rich character development. And I think we had many instances where the element of surprise was so great. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Schitt's Creek.
Why does that not surprise me?
Just the name alone just makes me giggle.
Yeah, if I had to name one of 10,000 shows, that would have been it, probably. Well, let's spin again.
Okay.
You up for two?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh
All right,
gosh,
here we
I
go.
can't get this thing aligned properly. Here we
Denise is
go.
having issues.
Apparently
Where
so.
did you get this from? This is
Oh, here we go. Okay. So if you had a table for two somewhere out there in the world, because now we're, getting our vaccines, we're safe, we can maybe go out for dinner. Who would be at that table with you? And why?
yeah. That's a good question. Let me think about this for a second.
Yeah.
So you
I've
have two
actually
obvious choices here, but we're
Right.
gonna take us out of this question.
It would be hard because it would be a table of three, and I wouldn't want to choose one of you and not the other unless it would be a
Oh,
table that
and
the
that's
two
why
of you
that's
would
why
need
we love you, Catherine.
That's right.
Um, it's interesting. Most recently, I've been involved with research projects, National Science Foundation research projects, and they have asked us to think about our dream entrepreneur. And one of the individuals that I would love to sit across from would be the owner of the um, Washington Capitals, Ted Leonsis.
Great guy.
He,
Great guy.
yeah, so he just has a way of just bringing out the best in people and in teams and
Hmm.
the people around them. So it would be pretty fun to go out. My family is Greek American. It would be great to go to a Greek restaurant and to have a night like chatting with Ted Leonsis.
And I think he would do it. I mean, I don't know how much of his history you know, and I'm not sure how much I have accurate, but well, didn't he start with CompuServe or one of those America Online
America
or something?
Online,
Yeah,
yeah, America
yeah.
Online, yeah.
So I mean, he's always impressed me with the way he carries himself, and just a tremendous guy.
Yeah. I mean, he supports women's sports. His, hockey teams win that. Like, he does great things. So it'd be just interesting to hear what inspires him and what excites him. So that, yeah, I would. That's table for two. I'd like to have a
Okay,
nice Greek meal with Ted. You going to make that happen for me,
I'm going to
Chuck?
call Ted, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, and I'll make sure that I tag. I'll tag him somehow
Yeah,
in these social
yeah,
media push outs of this
You guys
video,
are
and we'll see
awesome.
what
You guys are
happens.
so
yeah.
awesome.
I mean, what's the worst could
Oh.
happen?
Well, I think it should
Hang
take
up
turn.
on me like
Well,
everybody
that's
else.
right. Well, maybe we'll be lucky and it'll turn into a table of four, and the four of us we can all pick his
Oh,
brain.
that would be even better.
Oh,
That would be
Denise,
even
I like the way you
better.
think.
Hey, gotta
So you
think
want
outside the
another half
box.
question?
Yeah.
You want another half?
Let's do one
Okay,
more. We got all
One
right.
more. Okay.
One
because
more.
we got to
Okay.
get you going. You got a deal tonight.
Woo! Piano or guitar? Which one
Oh,
do you prefer?
I'll do guitar.
Yeah. So do you
Good.
play the guitar?
Finally.
Well, when I was in the Peace Corps, I bought a guitar thinking that I would have a lot of time to learn to spend an instrument. And of course, I met the love of my life.
Yeah.
And so I ended up giving the guitar that I bought to his roommate. So maybe, I don't know, maybe guitar, yeah.
All right. Like sitting around a campfire with a guitar, playing John Denver songs. That would be my
Yeah.
folk songs. Yeah.
I bet Ted would like it if you play guitar at dinner.
Ah, maybe a ukulele. I don't know, something with like strings,
I don't think a ukulele.
A
I
cello.
could be wrong. I've been wrong about many things. That could be one of them. Well,
Oh,
Catherine, I can't tell you how much fun we've had. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And we've had some technical difficulties here with my feed, and I apologize for that. But Denise will make it all well. But this has just been tremendous. I can't tell you my affection for you and respect for you. And I'm so happy that I was a minuscule part of you starting in this program and moving on to the great things you've done.
Chuck, you were my first investor. Did you know that? You gave me the $1 in your class.
I know.
So
I
you
wasn't going to bring that
definitely-
up, but
I,
you still have my $1?
I still have your $1. You were
I'll tell you the
it's in
story
my
later,
purse.
Denise.
okay. I can't wait.
So no, I'm so grateful that UMBC has been such an important part of your life. You helped make it an important part of my life, and I know it's an important part of Denise's life. And so it's really easy for me to, like, anytime Greg always tells me, he said, "You always say yes." I'm like, I don't always. I said, but if it's hard to not say yes when people at UMBC are asking you to do things, because it's usually one that creates a multiplier benefit. So I'm thrilled that you all are doing this. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been a true pleasure. You're a great inspiration, and I'm just so happy you were here with us today, sharing your story. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna go get vaccinated now.
Yes,
and we'll
go
talk
get
about hair again. So
And
Yes.
get your $100 ready.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for viewing, tuning in. Hit the subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.